and welcome back. I know I have a lot of mail to catch up on, but I received an email from someone that had a lot of synchronicities with a recent invocation of Saturn that I had done. And I'm being pressed to put this out there because it's fairly important and I feel it's a priority of getting this information out there. So let's get into it. Alright, so I had been under some heavy Saturn transits anyway, but they really kicked up a notch because now I have Saturn conjunct Venus, Neptune, Jupiter, and square my ascendant. And this is going to last the majority of the year. And I can feel it. It's a heavy, heavy influence. So I start searching for remedies. And there's not really a whole lot out there. You're not going to get this information anywhere else. Go and look. I mean, unless I want to give a cow to my neighbors or some other Vedic astrology solution that's just not feasible in the Western world, then you're pretty much screwed. I even called up good old Uncle Birch and asked him if he had anything for a heavy Saturn transit influence. And he said, well, you can get a candle and ask for mercy. So I bought a couple black candles that he made special for Saturn, and I appreciate and thank him for that. But, you know, begging for mercy really isn't my style, although you don't really have a choice but to submit to the influence of Saturn. And so in the search for answers, I decided to do an invocation of Saturn and go to the source itself. And before I tell you what was told to me, I had received an email about the same time that really had a lot of synchronicity with the information that I received. And this person wants to remain anonymous and asked that I don't share it in a mailbag. Well, this video is not a mailbag. This one's on its own. But I understand that you want to remain anonymous. So I will not display your email in this video. Although with all of the messages and mailbags that I do, I always do blur out the name so that the people can remain anonymous, and have done so from the beginning. Other people have asked me not to display their messages in a mailbag, which I usually don't have a problem with. Nobody's going to know who you are anyway. I think it's just to save them from the embarrassment of me talking about them, which only they would know anyway. Especially in cases where the answer that I give them isn't going to be the answer they want to hear, which happens quite often. I don't always get the answers that I want to hear either. But I feel this is important for people to understand the concept of the information that I received during this invocation. And so I am going to have to talk a little bit about it. So don't worry, your identity is safe. So this person has had a lot of difficulty lately, especially in his own household, although he had been fired from his job, but somehow managed to get it back, although he's worried that it can happen again. And of course, if you've been following my video series, you know that worrying about it is the absolute worst thing that you can do. And this person knows that. But he's been experiencing a lot of negativity within his home, which he believes is originating from his stepfather. He wants to clear and cleanse the home, however, his family is preventing him from doing so. And he's not even allowed to burn incense. The family does acknowledge that there's negativity in the home, and they've called upon a priest to bless the home. but he feels that the negativity is still present and originating from his stepfather, and he is being prevented from progressing with his spiritual work. And this is a young man of 22 years of age, which is important because that is the time when Saturn comes around. You are always going to have a Saturn transit your natal Saturn every 7.5 years. So that would put Saturn approximately square his natal Saturn at about 22 years of age. So let me share with you what I was told when I did my invocation of Saturn for a remedy to Saturn transits. I was told the losses that Saturn causes is equal to the responsibility one refuses to accept. Saturn takes away the responsibility that one refuses to shoulder. Saturn forces us to grow up, to reach the next level in our progress. The remedy for Saturn transits, therefore, is to shoulder more responsibility, not less. And this made absolute sense to me, because Saturn does rule over responsibilities, duties, obligations, contracts, as well as time and cycles. And so this person is feeling the negative effects of his Saturn square. It sucks, I know. But he's 22 now, a young man, but still a man. He's not a kid anymore. And Saturn wants him to take on more responsibility as a man. How is he to progress to the next level in his spiritual development and path when he's not even allowed to burn his own incense in his home? I mean, it's their house, their rules. Saturn forces us to grow up, take more responsibility, work harder to progress to the next level. And in this particular person's case, to work towards getting his own place and therefore establishing his own rules, which will take more work, more responsibility. But if you use magic towards this end, Saturn will assist you instead of making life difficult and cutting away those things which are holding you back. Understand that I'm not picking on him. If anything, he should feel honored that Saturn is using him as an example through synchronicity to help others understand, because this could be anyone. Everyone goes through difficult Saturn transits. Better to know now how to handle it than later. And it's not his or anyone else's fault. Our entire system is built upon the premise of avoiding responsibility. Our entire courts and justice system revolves around the premise of avoiding liability, i.e. responsibility. I said it before, you can't even have an automobile accident without it being someone's fault, although the very word accident implies that it's no one's fault. And even if you know that you caused it, you're told not to admit fault, that the insurance companies will handle it and fight over it. The Western world's entire system is built upon avoiding responsibility. And even worse, the victim mindset is promoted. You got everybody running around thinking it's not them, it must be some external source or influence or person that is the problem, that they're the victim, which is avoiding responsibility. And this is why magic is more effective when cast upon yourself instead of external sources. And we'll get into another video on that. All growth requires change, and Saturn cuts away those things that are keeping you from growing and changing. And if you're still clinging on to those things, it's going to make for a difficult transition. And how are we to progress to the next level of responsibility when we're still clinging to the old things that no longer serve us? But the fact is that people hate change and resist change at almost any cost. And this is where the influence of Saturn will seem like a severe punishment. Saturn rewards responsibility and will punish those who shrink away from it. Saturn is a strict taskmaster. It has a schedule to keep. Your progress is on a schedule. And so the remedy is to man or woman up and take on those challenges and take on that extra responsibility and progress to the next level and do what you have to do. A Saturn transit is not the time to slack off. And nobody wants to hear that. You know, I'm giving you the answers you need to hear, not the answers that you probably want to hear. I don't want to hear it. Do you think I enjoy having to examine what I'm doing and find the areas where I'm slacking to adjust and discipline myself and take on more responsibility? It's not a very fun thing to do, but it is necessary. If I am to progress to the next level of my development and my growth, then I have to do that. And why would we even deserve the benefits of the next level if we don't do the work to get to the next level? Having difficulty finding love? Everybody wants to do a love spell. Instead of doing the work and taking on the responsibility on themselves to become someone who is more lovable and deserving of love. Having money issues? Everybody wants to do a money spell to influence external circumstances. And yet, no one seems to want to do the work to become more fiscally responsible, balance their budget, and quit wasting money on frivolous things. But if our leaders can't even balance their budget, why should you? But if we don't, then we have the same problems that they do every few years, and we're going to spend ourselves into oblivion. They're able to grant themselves more money because they are the ones that print the money. But does that mean they deserve more money? Of course not. And neither would we. And we don't have the luxury of printing the money ourselves. Now, there's nothing wrong with casting spells for these things. However, we must become more responsible and take on the responsibility. And with each level that you progress, you take on more power. And with greater power comes greater responsibility. You've heard it before. It's the one line from Spider-Man that everyone remembers because it is true. And also remember that Saturn is the architect, and he will help you build your life to your highest aspirations if you're willing to take on the duty and responsibility. And I'll see you all next time. Take care.